So, firstly, I want to welcome you guys once again to the second session in our bootcamp. Please, how many of you were around yesterday for the first session? Kindly just react or something. You were in the call yesterday, please signify. Okay, one. Just one person. Okay, two. Three. All right. If you are not on the call and you have watched the video, the recording, please could you also signify? Okay, great. All right. If you have not watched the recording, I would implore you to watch it so you can follow us. The best is to watch it before the next session. So, yeah. Mary, please ensure to accept people in. Just keep a tab on it because it's possible you might not know that some people are trying to join. All right. So, I want to also ask, how many of you have been able to watch the walkthrough video that I sent yesterday? I expect that if you have watched it, probably you have questions or things that aren't clear also. You can just react or raise your hand if you have also watched the walkthrough video. Okay, nobody has watched the walkthrough video. Interesting. All right. So, what's going to happen is this. Today there won't be any task or so. It's just so that we can have ample time to clear our backlogs. So it's expected that if you were not in the last class, that was yesterday's class, you should watch the recorded video that was put on the group. And after that, you should also take the video, the walkthrough video that I posted on the group. That's because you need a good understanding of how the app works to be able to use it maximally. Please confirm you can still hear me. Just react or something. Thank you. So, briefly, I will just be, because after today's class, there's supposed to be lessons that you guys are supposed to take. So I'll just quickly walk you guys through that in like 5 minutes before we continue before we break into what we have for today particularly. Right, so if I say please confirm you can see my screen. All right, thank you. So when you go to the app, whether on your mobile or on a desktop like mine, all you need to do is to log in. I'm logged in currently, so just go to lessons. If you're on your mobile, the layout is going to look a bit different. You see something like, you see one hamburger icon to your top right. Just click on it to show you all these tabs, and you can just click on lessons from there. You need to be signed in to access lessons. So yeah, so once you're on the lessons tab, this is where you get to see the lessons you have to take. So originally this lesson, there are two lessons that I have pushed here. This lesson is supposed to be for today, while this is for Monday, but because majority of us have not even watched the walkthrough video, I'll probably have to push this to Monday so that we can use today and tomorrow to clear our backlogs. So this first lesson, I don't want to bombard us, so that's why I made it like this. I know some of us have other engagements, probably you work or you're a student, so you have classes and stuff. But I don't think this should be so cumbersome. Each lesson is less than 15-20 minutes. Some of them are like 10 minutes, some of them are like 7 minutes. So it should not be um, too difficult to follow. So all you need to do is to start the lesson. If you click on start the lesson, you will see the lesson. So there is a video you can watch, and there is also the written transcript of the lesson you can read. So you can also decide to save it. You can decide to share it, to generate a link and copy it to your clipboard. And you can also decide to listen. So if I listen to this lesson, it's going to read it out for me as though it's a video, but it's not. So just there's the audio part where you can just listen to the lesson. But I advise you just watch the video. I mean, it helps you with pronunciation and all those stuff. So when you're done with taking the lesson, all you need to do is to come here, mark it as completed, and then move to the next one. Simple as ABC. So take this video. So this lesson particularly is for Monday, while the second one is for Tuesday. Before Tuesday, you will see other lessons pop up here for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. All right, let me just ask to be sure that is clear enough. Please, what I just explained now, is it clear to us? Thank you. All right, so that's that about the lessons. You might not really understand the other things if you have not taken that video. So I'll advise you to take that video so you can understand how everything works. All right, so let's get into what we have for today. Yesterday, I gave a brief introduction into the French language and what are the benefits of learning French. Today, I'm just going to dive into what you can call culture, because I said it yesterday that for you to understand a language, for you to have a very good grasp of a language, you need to understand the culture, because language is from culture. You cannot understand the language outside the walls of the culture. And today I'm just taking a superficial dive into the culture behind the language. This meeting is 1 hour, so I have to be fast so that we can at least make some good progress today. So the first question we need to answer is, French is a language, and languages are usually from existing languages. So where did French come from? What's the origin? Yesterday I said it in passing that French belongs to the Romance language family. When we talk about the Romance language family, we are talking about the languages that originated from Latin. Now, Latin used to be a language that was very, very prominent about 2,000 years ago, and it was spoken by the Roman Empire. So, over time, Latin began to expand across Europe, and as a result of that expansion, it was mixed with local languages. And over centuries, it gradually transformed into several other languages that we now have today, and French is just one of them. So outside French, there is Spanish, which is also from Latin. There is Portuguese, there is Romanian, there is Italian. So these 5 languages they all belong to the Romance language family. So we can successfully say or call French a daughter language of Latin. So think of Latin as the parents. French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian are daughter languages. All right, that's a good way to introduce you into. So now let's talk about the culture. I know everybody on this call knows what culture is, but a lot of people believe or think that learning a language is simply about maybe memorizing vocabulary, memorizing grammar and grammar patterns, but that's not entirely true. Language is culture. If you learn only words, you may be able to speak correct French, but it still will not sound natural, because native speakers communicate differently, because their language usually reflects their culture, their history, their traditions, their way of life, their way of thinking. That's why two people can translate exactly the same sentence, let's say from English to French, yet one will sound natural while the other sounds, what's the word now? Maybe sounds robotic. So today we're just going to, go beyond the vocabulary to really understand the culture behind the language. Please confirm you can still hear me. Thank you. If you have anything to say at any point, if you raise your hand, I will not see it. So just feel free to cut me. Thank you. So I was talking about culture, right? So what's culture? As I said, culture is the way of life of people. Is the way people think, the way people live their lives, the way people behave, the way people interact, and it cuts across several things. So culture will wrap around greetings, how people greet, the kind of food they eat, the kind of things they celebrate, their celebrations, their humor, their manners, relationships, even religion in a way has its way in culture. For example, if you are a Nigerian, most likely you are Christian, Muslim, or maybe, well, in this age, you will not find a lot of traditional worshippers, I think, but you should still find some. But if you are to be baby born in India, if you are Indian, maybe you'll be a Buddhist or something. Buddhism is not common here because of our culture. So in a way, religion too is embedded in culture. Culture revolves around all those things, even history. So culture is what shapes language, and language also preserves culture. Now, why does French sound different from English? I personally believe that, this is very subjective, but I believe that there are things that English language values which already shaped the way it sounds, and there are also things that the French culture values which also defined the way it also sounds. Now, I believe that English speaking cultures generally value things like speed, efficiency, and direct communication. English is very direct. French, on the other hand, values a couple of things that English might not find interesting. French values elegance, they value politeness, they value beauty of expression. They also value precision, just like English, just that theirs is has a lot of other things embedded, like being polite and more or less saying things very beautifully. This is why French often sounds longer than English. Now, to know that you're following me, who knows what thank you is in French? You can raise up your hand and I'll call you. What's thanks? How do you say thanks in French? Please go ahead. Adelu.
I believe it's merci.
Thank you. Merci. Now, a lot of times you will not really even hear merci. You will hear merci beaucoup. Now now merci beaucoup literally means thank you very much. But my point is, sometimes most words in French are longer than English. They are longer. English is more like, let's just get straight to the point, and you understand why in a little bit of time. Let's just move ahead. So, although I'm not saying when you say merci they don't understand, it's perfectly acceptable, but French speakers enjoy making conversations feel warmer and more polite. Now, let me go back to my slide. Let's talk about greetings. Now, one of the biggest cultural differences between English and French is greeting etiquette. The way the English people greet, the way the French people greet. Now, if you're an English person, well, yeah, we can't really use ourselves as examples because they are not English. Some of our own cultures has found its way into how we interact. But if you were to be, let's say, American, for example, and you want to, let's say, you want to buy bread from a bakery. You could just enter and say, hi, I want to buy bread, or where is the bread? Something like that. Now, in France, or I'm using France now as a point of contact with the French people, that would sound very rude. You can't just say, bread, where's the bread? You probably have to greet first. You say something like maybe bonjour, monsieur, bonjour, madame, and you say maybe excusez-moi, où est le pain, which means where's the bread? So usually in French or in France, let's use France now as an example. Greetings always come before business. English people don't really care about greetings. They just want to go straight to business. So never skip bonjour. Bonjour is very sacred. Never skip it. Whether it is a shop attendant or it's a teacher or your neighbors or receptionist or a doctor, a pharmacist, doesn't really matter. Even if you are in a lift, like you are meeting strangers, if you forget to say bonjour, some people may refuse to even help you until you greet them. So to French people, greetings means it's more like saying you acknowledge their presence, you acknowledge their humanity. So moving on from bonjour, French has so many polite expressions, a lot of them. You will hear a lot of these words, which I'm sure most of us are familiar with already. Merci, you hear it a lot. S'il vous plaît, which means please, you hear it a lot. Excusez-moi, you hear it a lot. Pardon, you hear it a lot. Je vous en prie, avec plaisir. Bonne journée, bonne soirée. You hear these expressions a lot, more frequently than you will hear the English speakers use theirs. Now, another thing I would like to talk about is formality. Now, these are things that they might seem very negligible, but it really, really affects your understanding of the culture behind the language and how you use the language. Formality in French is very, very important. Now, English doesn't have some of these things. For example, if you are English and you could wake up and tell your dad, hi, good morning, those kind of things. In French, it doesn't really work that way. For example, let's take the word you, Y-O-U, for example. You, French has two ways of saying you. You can either use the word tu or use the word vous. Now, when you are speaking with friends, family, maybe your classmates, or people that are very, very close to you, you can't use the word tu. But when you want to speak with maybe your teacher in school or in a formal setting or held people that are older than you or strangers, people that you don't even know, you don't use to. If you use to, you sound very rude. Now, maybe you can if the person uses it as an introduction to the conversation, you can follow. But you just speaking it out of the blue using to will make you look like you don't have manners. So that's what formality is. French keeps both tu and vous, formal and informal, because they value respect a lot. So when you use to, it can show intimacy, you are close with the person. And when you use vous, it shows courtesy and respect. So to always be on the safe side, I think you should use vous more often. Except, as I said, you are speaking with your friends, family, classmates, and stuff. All right, let's move to the next slide. The French people also have a lot of things that has to do with food. Now, in many Francophone countries, eating is a social experience. If you look at my slide, you can see what I'm presenting. Now, meals in France, for example, are opportunities for conversation. Families often times will sit together to have meal, maybe dinner, breakfast. Now, people spend more than an hour eating sometimes, which you will not really find in the English culture. Now, conversation is considered to be part of the meal. That's why you even find expressions like bon appetit, which means enjoy your meal, have a nice meal. Now, English has no exact equivalence for that because it doesn't really exist in the culture. Now, let me move to the next thing, which is body language and etiquette. Now, how many of you have heard of la bise before? Let me go back to my screen. You've heard of la bise before. Maybe you've seen it in a movie or you've heard of the word somehow. You can just maybe raise your hand if you've heard of it before. Nobody. Interesting. All right. Now, la bise is a traditional cheek kiss that you find French people do a lot. It's a common greeting you find. It's a way to greet, but it's common among, let's say, family, friends, and colleagues, people who are very close. Now, not everybody, not everyone practices it too, but because it actually depends on the age. I don't think a 10-year-old boy will want to greet, um, let's say, a 60-year-old woman, and they want to give labis, except maybe their family or there's a close relationship between them. So labis, you most likely have seen it before, where they'll just in the process of greeting, they'll give a cheek kiss, maybe like three or four, depending on the region. Some people do four, some people do three on both cheeks. You've seen it before. Let me just see your hand, maybe in a movie or something. In the process of greeting, someone just kisses. Exactly, that's what they call labis. Thank you. So that's what they call labis. Uh, Now you don't give labis to everybody. I said it was only mostly among family, friends, and close colleagues or peers. Now, another thing that the French has in its culture is eye contact. French people generally appreciate eye contact. So, looking at someone while you are greeting them can show that you are very confident and sincere. So, you don't want to greet somebody, maybe a French person, and you are looking away. It could be communicating something else. Another thing, the last one on this slide is formal titles. Now, instead of simply saying hello or good morning, the French culture actually appreciates you add a title. So you could add monsieur if the person is a male, or you use madame if the person is a woman, or you can use mademoiselle if the person is a lady. Although you won't really hear mademoiselle like that, but it actually is used mostly for ladies. Most people just use madame, whether the person is a lady or a woman. But if you want to be more precise, madame will be for a woman, while mademoiselle will be for a lady. All right. So title demonstrates respect. So if you want to say good morning, you won't just say bonjour. You should say something like bonjour monsieur, which literally means good morning sir. Bonjour madame, good morning ma, good morning madame. All right. That's that about that. Let me move to the next thing. Now, because of time, let me check the time. Okay, we still have a bit of time. Now let's talk about francophone country cultures. Generally, I mean across Africa and outside of Africa. French is spoken far beyond France. I made mention of that yesterday. French is spoken in France. French is spoken in Belgium. Spanish is spoken in Canada. French is spoken in Switzerland. And when you come to Africa, French is spoken in a lot of countries. But every francophone country has something that is a bit unique to them. If you go to Senegal, for example, they have music, good music. The hospitality is top notch, and they also have very good storytelling. If you go to Cote d'Ivoire, for example, Ivory Coast, they have popular music, fashion, slangs. In fact, they have a lot of slangs. Now, how many of you? There was even one song that was trending about. Was it 2 months ago now? I'm not sure how long. In fact, some people are even playing it in church, not knowing what it means. Is this songs by Strome? Who knows the song I'm referring to? Firstly, can anybody hear me? Okay, good. So, there's this song by Strome. Strome is a French singer that was trending some time ago. I think it's about 2 months now. This Papa Ute song, Where to Papa, Where to Mama, Where to Papa, Dima, Where to Papa. You've not heard the song before. It was trending now that people were even using it for different things. Nigerian content creators. Now the song is French. In fact, funny enough, I saw a video and somebody was using it for worship, like a church kind of content. I'm like, this guy does not even understand what the song is about, because it was just melodious and it was quite popular, and then the person just used it like that. So if you go to Cote d'Ivoire, look at the Cote d'Ivoire people. They have a lot of very popular music. The song is not from Cote d'Ivoire. I'm just using that as an example of a French song that is very, very popular. But when you talk about pop music, Cote d'Ivoire has a lot of popular ones. They also have very good taste for fashion. French generally has good fashion sense. In fact, that already has even influenced some of the words we use today. When you say boutique, boutique has a French origin. because their sense of fashion is great. Now, I also said that Cote d'Ivoire people have a lot of slangs, contrary to what you will hear as standard French. They have a lot of slangs, just the same way. Let me look for something similar here. Well, here we have Pidgin English that also has a lot of slangs that are regional based. That if you say some words in Port Harcourt, they understand. But if you come and say it in Ibadan, people just looking at you. All right, that's about that. Cameroon, for example, also has good food. They have good cuisine skills, good food. French generally has good food. It's not just baguette. It's not just croissant. They have good food. Let me just stop there. Yeah, I was going to touch some of these other cultures like Quebec, Switzerland, Belgium, but let's skip that. Now, let's talk about expressions with cultural depth. The first thing I want to talk about is debating. French culture enjoys discussion a lot. Just like I said earlier, even when they are having meals, they see it as an opportunity to converse. And people can actually disagree passionately without becoming enemies because it's in their culture. So disagreement is often viewed as an intellectual engagement rather than personal conflict. It's not like in some parts of the world where, or even in some parts of Nigeria where you cannot disagree without picking hatred for the person. I mean, it's about what we are talking about. It's not about the person. But you find debating a lot in their culture. Disagreement in discussions, very healthy intellectual engagements, and not personal conflicts. Now, let me quickly talk about another thing that is very, very, very important in the French culture. French words have gender. Now, while you might you can't find that in English because it doesn't exist. For example, when you look at French nouns, every noun has a gender. An example of noun: table, chair, phone. All of those words have a gender, and based on their gender actually affects almost everything about how you use that word. It affects the kind of articles you use. In English, for example, the only article we have that you can use, okay, let's say definite articles, you use the. Indefinite articles, you can use a and, if depending on whether it starts with a vowel or not. But French has several articles depending on the gender of the word, of the noun. So, but let's ask the question. Table, for example, is la table, the table. It's feminine. That's the gender. Gender means it's not masculine or feminine. Why is table feminine? There's no simple answer. I said earlier, French evolved from Latin. And Latin already assigned grammatical genders to words even before French. So it's not just found within the French context. The only thing French did was to just inherit that part of the Latin language. Now, a disclaimer: grammatical gender does not have anything to do with biological gender. For example, table is feminine. It has nothing to do with a girl or something. Book is masculine. It has nothing to do with a boy. So it's not biology. It's just gender when it comes to grammar and words. Now, definitely, when you see obvious words like a man has to be masculine. A woman, nobody needs to say. You don't need to ask the question of what gender is this word. That one is very clear. It has to be feminine. A woman has to be feminine. A boy has to be masculine. But I'm saying every object, every noun has a gender. And now let me talk about the language heritage that the French people preserve. Now, the French people really love their language, and there is actually an academic body that was founded in 1635 that helps to preserve and guide the French language. Contrary to what you have in English, where people just had English, just absorb foreign terms, add it to their own dictionary. The French people actually they don't just add words anyhow. In fact, they rather create French alternatives for words. An example I can give you is the word email. Email is English. And in fact, even French people use the word email because I said English and French have entered themselves over centuries. But the body will actually have you use courier instead of using email because that is what they prescribe in an attempt to preserve their language. So, although many people still use the English words, but the efforts they even put into preserving shows you how much they value the language. I've already talked about labis. Now, one thing I didn't mention about labis is that I said earlier that you use it with friends. You don't use it in professional meetings. You would rather use an handshake. Handshake is in the French culture too. I know English uses handshake a lot. French also uses handshake in professional meetings and formal settings. So you will not just you will not be in a meeting, a formal meeting, let's say work, and then you want to give your boss labis or you want to give a colleague labis. Labis should be used between friends or is usually used between friends and family. Now, there are some things that English speakers will find strange. If you are coming from an English background and you are coming to learn French, you will find some things very strange. One of them is why should words have gender? In the English, that does not exist. But one thing I'll suggest is in learning words, don't just learn words in isolation. For example, don't say livre. Learn it as le livre. In that way, you are already maybe subconsciously or maybe even unconsciously learning the right gender for that word instead of learning the word and getting to figure out the genders later on. So when you learn it like that, it helps you figure them out. Like because gender is not just about what actually I can just guess. If you guess, you could be right, you could be wrong. Because the gender of the word also affects several other things, as the words is used in sentences, how the adjective you use with the word. French also have different adjectives you use with different words. So if the word is masculine, you are supposed to use the masculine adjective. So eventually, it affects the way you are understood if you just use the genders anyhow. All right. So another thing is that I already talked about discussions. I talked about now. Another thing that French people value a lot is lunch breaks. I don't know how seriously people take that in the English world, but French people take lunch breaks very very seriously. At lunch breaks, people even leave work just to go and observe lunch breaks. I can't remember the last time I did that. Yeah, I'm not even sure I've done that ever. But I mean, people have time for lunch, but a lot of people don't respect it here. But there, people even close businesses for lunch. If you go to France, if you go to some of their smaller towns, people close their business just to go and have a lunch break or just to go and spend lunch breaks. And usually, they spend longer time having meals than the English people. And I think you will find common with the French people is bread. They eat a lot of bread, and buy fresh bread every day seems to be a culture. Now, if you take a bus or you go to a bank or wherever it is, I said earlier, greeting is very very important. So don't always forget. Bonjour is very sacred. You should say it a lot of times. Now, let me move on to the next slide. The mindset shift. This is the question you ask at some. Now it might not really matter at the beginning of your learning, but over time it's going to matter. Because I remember one of my concerns before used to be I just want to be able to speak French. It doesn't matter if it sounds natural or if it does not. But I mean I can choose to express myself and I'll actually say correct French. Now sometimes you can speak correct French, quote unquote, and it doesn't sound natural. A native speaker would not say it like that. That will get into the details of some of these things in future lessons. But I'm just more or less giving you an introduction. So don't just ask, how do I say this sentence in French? Let me give you a very good example of what I'm talking about. If you want to say, let's say you want to use an adjective with a noun, let's say a big house. The French don't put their own adjectives before the noun. There's an exception. I'll explain that. They put the adjective after the noun. So you can just take the word a big house. House is maison. Big is grand. The article a can be hun or hun, depending on the gender. So you can just say, let me just translate the word a big house. Maison is feminine, so you use the feminine article. Une grande maison. Now, whether that is correct or wrong depends on the rules that the French have. how native speakers would actually speak. Now, in that instance, you are correct because when the word has to do with size, or let's say beauty, or let's say there's a rule for it. Let's say there are four exceptions when the word starts with, when the word has to do with beauty, or it has to do with age, it has to do with maybe greatness and size. The the adjective is supposed to come before the noun. But every other thing that does not fall in that category, the adjective is supposed to come after the noun. So translations from or transliterations from English to French will most likely fail you, because that is not how a native speaker will express that statement. So don't just learn how do I say this in French. You should also ask, would a native French speaker actually express it this way? Now, eventually, they can't struggle and get their way around understanding what you said, but it's going to make fluency farther than it should be. Now, what are the key takeaways to take from everything I have said so far? Number one, language and culture are inseparable. You cannot separate them. The second thing is I've said today is that always greet before asking questions. The third thing I said is that politeness is very essential in French, in the French language. Respect also matters. And just like if you are Yoruba, you understand what I'm saying. In Yoruba, for example, Yoruba also is a language that is very big on culture, on respect and honor. In Yoruba, let me go back to my screen. In Yoruba, if you want to say thank you, and the person is probably your friend or someone that is even younger than you, you say Oshe. But if you want to say, if the person is someone you respect or someone that is older or your boss, you will not say Oshe. If you say Oshe, it sounds rude. So that's exactly what we are talking about. There are some words you use when you are in a formal setting, and there are some other ones you don't use when you don't use in a formal setting. You can use them in an informal or a friendly setting. So getting back to what I was talking about, respect matters in French a lot. So as you're learning language, you also have to learn words that actually keep you in that respectful tone. I also said meals and conversation are important social experiences. The French people take their meals very seriously, and conversations usually happen during meals. French values elegance, precision, and respect. I've said that. And I also said that Francophone cultures have uniqueness from country to country, whether it's within Africa or outside of Africa. And understanding culture will actually make French much easier. There are some things that when you understand them, it will just ease out your learning. You will not. Now, sometimes there are not direct answers to some questions. For example, why are some words masculine and some other words feminine? There's not a direct answer. It has just been there in the culture, right? And that was how French inherited it from Latin. But you can learn, okay, how do I know whether this word is masculine or feminine? Because there are patterns. There are patterns. If a word ends with this, most likely it is masculine. If a word ends with that, most likely it is feminine. So you could learn those patterns, and it could really help you attain your language goals faster. All right, that will be it for my presentation. Please confirm you can hear me and you've been hearing me all along, because I was not really looking at this window.
Yes, I can hear.
All right. So, as I said yesterday, for the benefit of those who joined later, maybe at some point in the video, in the call rather, today is Saturday. Let's leave Sunday out, because let's just leave Sunday for clearing of backlogs. So we're supposed to take 5 lessons: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, each lesson for 1 day. And then by Friday is expected that our next session will be Friday. By Friday is expected that you have taken 5 lessons. And so I want to leave. I'm deliberately leaving out today and tomorrow, because some of us were not on the call yesterday, so we could actually have time to go through the video. And some of us have also not gone through the walkthrough video that I did. Because the truth is, if you don't understand the app, there's no way you'll be able to make maximum use of the app. So I'm leaving today deliberately for that purpose. So if you can do it today, fine. If you can do it tomorrow, fine. So that by Monday you can start taking your lessons. So as I said earlier, when you take a lesson and you have a question, you could drop your question in the maybe comments of that lesson. every video definitely has the comment section. You could drop your comment. So far, your question has to do with that particular lesson. You can drop your question in the comments, and I'll attend to it. However, if your question is not related to the video, maybe you just have a question at any question at all, you can actually go ahead and drop the question in the community. The advantage of that is that it's not just me that can see it. Every other person in the community can see it. Please, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Just react. Thank you. So if you don't know what community is, it's because you have not watched the video. So go and watch it. When you watch it, you see the community. So that's how the questions will go. So when you, if you, for the benefit of those that will watch this video that are not on this call, it's not mandatory for you to watch this call. This call is recorded, but it's for the sake of those who were not able to attend the meeting for one reason or the other. So it's not a must for you to want to watch it again since you're already in the meeting. But if you missed the meeting, the call, it is actually required that you take the video lesson, the recorded lesson, and watch. And how do we know that you have watched the lesson? When you are done, drop a comment in the comment section of the video. That's your proof of watching the video. All right, I said yesterday there will be certificates at the end of the bootcamp, but it's only going to be for those who actually participated fully, which means you attended all the lessons, you did all the assessments that were there. Maybe not, if it's not a must for you to attend all the live calls, but if you miss a call, try to watch the video and just try and bring yourself up to speed. All right, I was supposed to take questions based on the videos you guys watched yesterday into today, so that I can answer give any clarity or clarification to anyone who needs it. But maybe I'll just give that room shortly, at least for the sake of those who join later. You've watched the video, the walkthrough video, maybe you tried opening an account, or you have any issue that you would like to talk about, or any question you like to ask me about navigating through the app and finding your way around it. Please, this is time to ask, and I can provide answers. No questions? Okay, I'll take that as no questions. So, however, when you watch the video and you have questions, as I said, please drop your questions in the comments. So every day I will send I already put 2 lessons up. That's for Monday and Tuesday. So before Tuesday ends, I'll drop lessons for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If you have the time and you feel like you want to take them at once, it's fine. It's totally fine. Just ensure you take them at your own pace. And by next week Friday, you should have completed 5 lessons. So after Friday, there should be another lesson you will take before Saturday. Then on Saturday, next week Saturday, now there should be another 5 lessons you are going to take in the week that is after that week. So making it a total of 10 lessons in all. And after the lessons, there will be like a short assessment that everyone is supposed to submit, which actually qualifies you for a certificate at the end of the bootcamp. Does anybody have any question at all, whether it's relating to lessons or it's relating to anything, or it's relating to the bootcamp itself, or before we call it a session tonight? All right, please go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can you quickly repeat what you said just now? You said something about a session I didn't hear that part. The one that qualifies you for certificates.
Yeah, so I said that this coming week there will be 5 lessons that you're supposed to take. One split across the days: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then after our session on Friday and Saturday next week, there will also be another 5 lessons to take. But you could take those lessons the following week, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And after that, there will be an assessment that you have to submit based on the lessons that you have been taking. So that assessment is what guarantees that you have finished what is expected of you, and at that point you are qualified to get a certificate. Do you get it now?
Oh yes, I do get it now. Thank you.
You're welcome. So does anyone have any other question? before we call it a night. All right. In the absence of no questions, there will be things that will be dropped on the group intermittently from Monday. I mean, outside the lessons, there would be things that will be dropped. So just try and, if it's a, for example, I know we usually drop blog post every week. When it drops, you get the link. You could read. Whatsoever it is, whatever is dropped on the group, just try to ensure that you are engaging with those things. And I think that will be it. So thank you guys for joining for tonight's session. When this video is uploaded, I'll send a link to the page for those that were not able to join the meeting. And I want to wish you an enjoyment for the rest of your evening. Thank you.